Hi, I'm going to show you how to add an additional hard drive. Maybe it's a USB hard drive that you've plugged in that wasn't formatted and partitioned, or vice versa actually. Or maybe it's a hard drive that had data and you want to get rid of it. There'll be a slight demonstration on that. What you want to do is get to computer management. You can do that by right mouse clicking on computer or my computer and choosing manage. And my computer would be Windows XP. You'll notice here I have my main hard drive. That's a physical disk, and it's partitioned into two separate partitions. This is a little bit old school. Not a lot of people do that anymore. But on older systems, smaller hard drives, they would put the main boot window, the Windows files on the main C drive, and the secondary D drive would be used to hold additional data. You don't see it as much, and there still may be some reasons to do it. But the reasons are becoming less and less with larger hard drives and faster systems. You'll notice that I have another disk, disk 1 here, which is just a big, that's a terabyte hard drive. It formats out to 931, but it's a terabyte hard drive. We scroll down here and you'll notice that this is the drive that we have plugged in. It's hooked up to a USB cable, and the one up above I can actually right mouse click. If I chose open, you would actually see the folders and files on that drive. In this case, we're going to right mouse click and we're going to choose new partition. There's also a properties form. I'm going to try and drag it into the window here. This, I don't mess around with it too much, but you don't have to choose the properties to get a drive going. We're going to do a new partition, and we have primary partition and an extended. Primary partition, which it's given you a description here, is usually for the boot drive that has the operating system on it. Extended partition usually is just a container that's going to look like a drive, but it's not used for the boot files. Quite honestly, if you had a primary partition hard drive, maybe it came out of an old system and it has files on it, it's still going to show up as a container with files, but you can't make an extended drive easily the boot drive. And so the primary one would be the one with the operating system again. And so in this case, let's pick one of these two. And we come down. Okay, we're going to choose extended. You'll notice, we're going back and forth. The partition, it automatically chose the maximum. If we hit finish, it would just create the partition. We're going to do a primary, and if you do primary, it asks you to, do you want to give it a drive letter, or down below, in this case it's chosen drive G, but below that it says do not assign a drive letter. Well, when you plug that drive in, the system is still going to give it a drive letter. It's just you haven't tried to preset one up. You also have well, we're going to try and do drive X, for instance. Mount in the following empty NTFS folder. I personally have never used that. I'm sure there's lots of reasons to use it, but it basically would be more of a power user function. I believe it makes the drive show up as a folder on one of your hard drives as opposed to its own drive letter. Whoops, we tried to do drive X, but I guess it was already assigned by the system. Let's just choose none. In this, you got to format the drive if you're going to use it. NTFS is the file system. That's your Windows file system. If you want this to be seen on a Macintosh or a Mac computer, you're going to want FAT32. You can't do it through this wizard. You have to use a command line, or which is fairly easy to do. Might cover that in another tutorial, but you can't do it without an NTFS. The Mac does not read that. But the NTFS is the default Windows since XP system. Right here, down below, you can do a volume label. And you'll also notice that you can perform, well, actually, let's just give it a volume label. We're going to call it My Drive, or how about My New Drive? And then we can perform a quick format. Well, a quick format sets up the drive and makes it functional. It does not go through, and it really just kind of sets up the FAT table, or the table of contents, if you will, to utilize the drive, but it doesn't do any kind of full test on the hard drive. It's not a bad idea to uncheck that if it's a new drive, and you'll exercise the hard drive by going through every sector if you do not have a quick format. But if you want to just get moving, get some a drive that's usable to put some files on, go ahead and do the quick format. Down below that, we have enable file and folder compression. I'm not a big fan of folder and file compression. Maybe it's just fear from past experiences from years ago. But if you have one, it slows it down a little bit because every file has to be compressed and uncompressed. And also, if the drive fails, it reduces the ability to save files, because now the files are compressed files. And again, maybe that was just experiences I had from years ago, you know, if you compress a drive. But nonetheless, drives are fairly inexpensive today. Why slow it down by compressing? And quite frankly, a lot of files such as MP3s and files of those type are already compressed. So it's not going to gain you a whole lot if you've got a hard drive full of MP3s and you want to compress the drive. They're already compressed files. I just chose about half the drive, and by typing in a smaller number, you'll notice it's formatting now, and it's doing a quick format, so it did it fairly quick. And that drive is now partitioned out and ready to go. You'll also notice that we have the unallocated space, which is about 270 gigabytes. And if we want to use that, we basically have to right mouse click on it and do a new partition and kind of follow the same bouncing ball that we've already just gone through. In this case, we'll do extended, and we're going to finish it out. Now, when you do it that way with an extended, then you've got to create the logical drive. You just right mouse click on it again and follow the process. Now it's going to ask for a drive letter, and do you want it to be a quick format? And if we hit finish, away it goes, and it's going to format out, And I notice I must have chose something on that first one because it's not allowing me to open the drive. I'd have to go through it again. Let's just hit delete. Down below on the menu that's hidden, there's the delete function. And I'm going to delete both of them. And this is how you would delete a partition. First it's going to delete out the, the main thing there is that was warning you it's going to lose all data. So when you mess with that, you want to be very careful that you don't accidentally delete something of one of your drives you want to keep, because you're going to delete data, and there may be some ways to recover from that, but they're not fun and they're not always successful. So you want to be very methodical when you're in this disk management, because you could accidentally, and here I'm just quickly bumping through and making it another drive, but this time I'm choosing a full drive. I didn't mess around with partitions. There's plenty of tools out there to mess with partitions. You can make the partitions different sizes later, but you can't do it through this management tool that comes with your Windows, or you're going to lose data. Acronis is a popular, they make a tool called Disk Director, I believe. And now this is a blank drive. You can see there's a hidden folder. That's a common folder that's made on the drive. But if you did not have your commonly do not show hidden files, would it be chosen by default from a system? Also, the operating system files would be hidden, so you wouldn't see anything in this drive. But for all practical purposes, now this drive is usable.